We have more breaking news out of the NFL where Deshaun Watson will not face criminal charges over accusations ranging from sexual assault to sexual harassment. A grand jury determining today that there was not enough evidence in the accusations to criminally charge Watson. The Texans quarterback sat out the 2021 season while working through the court system. Watson is still facing 22 lawsuits in civil court over his alleged actions. And for reaction to this and more, here's senior NFL insider Jonathan Jones. JJ, what happens now that Watson is not going to be criminally charged?
Well, now the interest in Deshaun Watson, the real interest around the NFL with teams that are in search of a franchise quarterback is surely going to ramp up. You know, I don't want to put a timeline on things. I don't know that there's going to be a trade that is executed tonight, for example, Saturday or Sunday. This may drag a little bit. There may be the exact trade that Texans general manager Nick Caserio wants, that Deshaun Watson, remember, he has a no-trade clause, something that he wants. And so all of those things could happen sooner. They could happen a little bit later. But in the immediate, Jeremy, what happens is it makes this far more real, far more tangible that he can actually get traded. You go back to the trade deadline last fall, and he would only waive his no-trade clause for one team. It was the Miami Dolphins. And the Texans and the Dolphins could never agree on that compensation. They did that dance, and ultimately the trade deadline passed, and Miami moved on with Tua Tagovailoa. Well, now, what team is he going to open up his no-trade clause for? And I can also tell you this, Jeremy, teams are also bracing for a potential NFL suspension of Deshaun Watson, whether that's 4 games or 6 games or even 8 games. All that is still unknown because the league hasn't finished its investigation into Deshaun Watson, because they haven't spoken to Deshaun Watson because the criminal matter had not yet reached its conclusion. Now that it has, the NFL will continue its investigation. We'll speak with Deshaun. I think that a number of teams are expecting it. I'm not saying it's definitely going to happen, but folks around Deshaun have been bracing for that as well, and that is a possibility that may very well turn into an eventuality.
So in terms of what the league can do, I mean, how will that affect which teams might queue up for him in terms of a trade? Let's start with what the league can do. When you think about this and when you think about past precedent in terms of what's been set here for how the league has responded to something like this, what are the expectations in terms of what's the worst the league can do?
Well, if there's any sort of suspension, and I would not anticipate a year-long suspension. I'm not even sure a half-season suspension is really in the cards. I think we're looking at a 4 to 6 game suspension. That would, again, sort of the expectation here, if the league investigates and finds enough, right? There was not enough to criminally charge Deshaun Watson. Will there be enough in civil courts to find him liable for some things that are alleged? Potentially. All that has to be worked out and adjudicated, but the NFL, with its personal conduct policy, they can very well find, Roger Goodell and his group can find potentially that Deshaun Watson violated that personal conduct policy and then suspend him. What would then happen? Deshaun Watson and his representation would then obviously appeal, because he has maintained his innocence throughout. Obviously today not being charged criminally works well in his favor when that appeal certainly would happen. And so any team that would be trading for Deshaun Watson would have to have some sort of plan that would involve not having Deshaun Watson on the football field for the first month and a half of the season. That would have to be in the cards. And if you are able to get him earlier than that, then that's something that maybe you didn't expect, but that you as a football team would obviously welcome. So that's the math that NFL teams that right now are interested in Deshaun Watson, and there are several. I can tell you right now, Jeremy, the Carolina Panthers are interested. Seattle Seahawks are interested. Philadelphia, I'm getting some mixed signals on the Eagles. The New Orleans Saints have been interested. Tampa Bay Buccaneers are keeping tabs, and I can tell you this, having talked with multiple sources around the league, there are a couple of other teams as well that you might think, hey, they have their quarterback situation figured out. We'll see about that. They are very, very interested, or at least were very interested in what today's results may bring.
So it's not only just a little bit of a conclusion for Watson in terms of the criminal liability here, but also for the Texans. So what happens now for the Texans, JJ?
Well, they're going to try their best to get at least 3 first-round picks and then some for Watson. I don't know that it will be 3 first and 3 twos, for example, especially when you consider the suspension that he may very well face. Maybe it's going to be 3 ones and a player. Maybe it'll be 3 ones and some mid-round picks. I think all of those sort of scenarios are possible, but GM Nick Caserio, he can't necessarily hold an auction. He can't just say, whoever's going to give me the most picks, that's the team that I'm ultimately going to send a franchise quarterback in the beginning of his prime to. Deshaun Watson has to want to go there. And I'm told that there are sort of 3 criteria, if you will, that Deshaun Watson is looking for in his next NFL team. And that is a good head coach, that is a good offensive line, that is a solid defense. And so if you are a fan of a team that is lacking 2 of those 3, I don't think that you are high up on Deshaun Watson's list right now. And because he has that no trade clause, he's able to determine where he wants to go. They may not have the best offer, but they have a good enough offer for the Houston Texans. This is something where it does take 3 to tango here. Deshaun Watson has to want to go there. The Houston Texans have to be willing to send him there. And then that team that is acquiring Deshaun Watson has to be willing to give up enough to the Houston Texans to make this palatable for everyone. And so because of that, again, it may not be the best offer that could possibly be gotten for Deshaun Watson because he does hold some cards and some leverage via his no trade clause. But those are the 3 things that I've been told he's looking for. It's the good coach, it's a good offensive line, it's a good defense.
And we're going to have to wait to see what the league decides to do. Plus, there are the civil lawsuits, which are expected to be coming, 22 of those. Senior NFL insider Jonathan Jones joining us. Thanks for hopping on with us, JJ. Breaking news is Deshaun Watson will not be charged criminally.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.